Hi, good evening everyone. My name is Manish Yadav and I am the Principal Consultant at TechCircle. Today, we are joined by a senior leader, Mr. Sunil Vattal. Mr. Sunil Vattal has over 3 decades of experience working with organizations like Government of Haryana, Oracle, GE and IBM and many more. Mr. Vattal is known for his strong strategic acumen in integrating legacy systems with the digital systems. He has also taken part in implementing IT strategies and for IT enablement. Welcome Mr. Sunil Vattal to TechCircle Leader Unplugged episode 4.
Thank you Manish. It's a pleasure being here with you, and I would love to share some time with you and share some of my experiences with you.
Mr. Vattal, today's topic of discussion is largely talking about data management and how data analytics put together can solve a lot of problems for our industry. So the topic is from chaos to clarity, the power of decision making. From your experience, how has the data management evolved looking at the data velocity and the growing quantum of data? And what are a couple of your foreseen trends which you believe will have a bigger impact in the near future?
See Manish, you mentioned some figures also. See, what has happened is data velocity and data volumes have grown up tremendously.
Right.
I mean, and there are multiple factors for that. One of the factors is that easy access, easy availability, infrastructure, basically the infra availability is there. So if you go to the basic paradigm of automation, input, process, output.
Right.
So today that output is changing because the inputs have also changed. The input earlier was I didn't have those data sources. Today the data sources have increased.
Correct.
So there's a lot of data capture that is happening, which was not happening earlier, because most of the places the systems were either not digitized or we did not have that particular way of capturing the data. So the modalities of capturing the data are there. And now what is happening now is we are flooded with data. And to be very honest, we're not even exploiting that data. I would say that we are still in the initial stages, we're in the nascent stages of exploiting the power of that data. We're just collecting, organizations are collecting, some organizations are not even collecting that data.
True.
And over time what has happened is, the basic thing that has happened is the nature of that data has changed. Traditionally, there is a quadrant, a Gartner quadrant of velocity versus the structure of data. Right. So traditionally we had structured data, low velocity data.
True.
And now today it is more of high velocity, high volumes and unstructured or semi-structured. We do have structured, but we also have semi-structured data.
Yes.
So, and what it leads basically to is that it's moved more towards decision making has got to be data driven. And when we're talking about decisions, there are two aspects to it. Strategic decisions as well as operational decisions.
Right.
So if we look at it, it is two totally logically bigger chunks. One is the strategic decision making based on data. Another is even the operational decision making.
Right.
And when I talk about strategic and operational, I mean, let's take a big industrial house. They want to, what is the sort of business they want to venture in, what are the business lines they want to venture in. And if you just, now let's say this particular house is doing retail. They are into retail.
Right.
Retail is one of their businesses.
Correct.
So in a retail shop, another decision would be what is the commodities that they have to stock, what are the commodities that they would sell. And it goes down to the operational decisions as low as how do I store my stuff on the front shelf. I don't know whether you know about it or not, but Walmart, the display is data driven. It's based on data. They capture customer data, and then they decide which are the selling items, which are the places which captures your eye fast, and how do we place them. So from that perspective, I would say that we are still in the initial stages, and there is a huge opportunity to exploit data, to use this data, and how we go about it. Companies have to invest. They have to invest both in terms of technology and infrastructure.
Absolutely valid point made, Mr. Sunil. Very interesting point you highlighted about the analysis of data, right? So in India, around 5% of data is only getting analyzed yearly basis, right? So that shows that, okay, there is a lot of unstructured data which is there, which needs structuring required and then analysis on top of it. So definitely I agree to that. And then that brings me to my second point of, there are certain challenges like you cited, right? A couple of challenges what I believe from a research standpoint, what we have analyzed is, one is data silos, right? One you also pointed out in your point. And the second is the integration of systems, right? Now, when we look at data silos, our research says that data silos cost large organizations on an year about $3.1 million. That's a huge amount. When we look at on the other side, which is the other challenge, which is the data, the system integration, there 20% of the businesses are fully digitalized from their legacy system. So there is 80% of TAM which is still remaining to be digitalized, right? Now, one of the reasons which we believe is primarily because of the cost. So our research shows that around 30% of incremental cost is there when an organization is trying to move from legacy to a modernized system, primarily because the uncertainty of what you call complexities which are there, right? So that probably on that foundation, my next question to you is, what are some of the specific strategies and what you call initiatives you would probably like to share when you look at mitigating data silos, number one, and number two is, how do you ensure a smooth transition from, say, legacy system to a digital system?
So there are two things. We are talking about legacy to digital, or we're also talking about semi-digital to digital, because and when we're talking about businesses here, we're talking about a very wide range of businesses, as starting right from, it could be service industry, it could be manufacturing industry, it could be anything. So and the data that is captured is, some of them are legacy systems are purely without any digitization, then there are some which are with digitization. Now it needs to be a very holistic approach. So when I am, let's say I have a small business, I want to move my business into a data driven business, I want to make the organization data driven. It has to be a top down approach, there has to be a stakeholders buy in, and it has to be more of a mandate.
Right.
It has to be, you have to develop, I would say you have to develop a culture, data driven culture.
Correct.
And a lot of reshuffling will happen. A lot of systems may have to be, you may have to either replace the systems, you may have to either upgrade those, or you may have to merge the existing systems with the new systems. So one of the basic challenges there is to maintain data consistency across systems. Currently what is happening is, data, either there is duplication of data, or there is data which is missing, or there is no data consistency. So that consistency has to be maintained so that all these systems tightly coupled together. And with the technology advancing today, even if I have diverse systems, they can interface with each other. These systems can interface and integrate very well with, let's say, if I'm talking about web-based applications, they can interface through APIs. We've designed a lot of systems where we pull in data through APIs.
Right.
And going down later, I may give you an example. I mean, I can give you an example of probably a system which is capturing some data where I don't want a person to capture the entire data. For example, let's say you have an employee system in your organization. So when the employee fills in his data, he fills in his base data, which is his name, his date of birth, or his just Aadhaar. So if obviously there are legal issues, Aadhaar is not mandatory, or mandatory, will not get into that. But let's say, suppose there was a national identifier which was compulsory. So half of my data would get pulled out from that thing and get populated automatically. And once you do that, once you have tight integration, tight coupling, there is very, very less chance of data being misrepresented.
Right.
Because there are cases where data gets misrepresented.
Absolutely.
So you cannot misrepresent the data, you can't hide it.
True.
And this is a classic example of this is our PAN number. Today, most of our income tax returns the way our income tax department has done it, most of our financial information is getting consolidated day by day.
Correct.
I mean, I remember a decade back or 2 decades back, people wouldn't declare their fixed deposits, they wouldn't declare their bank accounts. Today you can't hide it.
Yes.
Because you are tightly coupled, and it's all coupled by data.
Right.
So, having said that, I think in the organizations which are moving towards fully digitization, one of the basic things has to be the architecture, the system architecture has to be very strong to maintain data consistency, to maintain systems which talk to each other, and an essential thing is the data formats.
Okay.
If you're bringing in data from legacy, data conversion is the biggest challenge that we face.
Right.
Practically on the ground when we do these projects, the biggest challenge that we face is data conversion, because you have data in a different format there, you have data in a different format here, and then it becomes a challenge.
Absolutely. So, understanding that journey of what you call mitigating the challenges in terms of data silos and the other aspects, right? In theoretical world, this looks very interesting, right?
Yeah.
However, we would like to understand from you when it in a real world scenario in terms of implementation, right? Where should the focus be, right? Can you give us an example by telling us what went into the journey of doing that, what you call journey of yours, transforming from say from a traditional say legacy system to a modernized system?
I can pick up a couple of examples, and because incidentally, my professional journey has been very diverse. I worked in multiple organizations,
right,
and I've done multiple projects. One of the basic challenges is when you do this legacy transformation, there are certain cases where you can't get rid of legacy data, you have to live with that.
Right.
But migrating that data, converting that data is a big challenge. I mean, I can quote one of the global organizations, financial organizations that we were supporting. They were on a very old database system. Okay. I'm not naming the organizations or the technologies, but they were on a very, very old database system, okay, which today it's very difficult to find people who work on that technology.
Right.
And the volumes are so tremendous that they're not willing to convert. They're not willing to change. They want to retain that technology. So that is what I'm telling you. There are 3 things. Organizations have to willingness to change, to move from that technology. Data conversion is not impossible. It is possible. It takes effort. Right. But we have to get rid of that mindset. We have to move ahead, and it's very simple. It's like a race. And again, when we're talking about technology, we're talking about new technologies coming in, because today I'm talking analytics. Yeah. Probably next we will be talking about AI getting in and decisions being made. We're actually looking at where people like you and me would not be making decisions. We would leave half the decisions to the system itself. Some of the non-critical decisions would be made by the systems. So there's a lot of things to be incorporated so that you catch up with it. Right. So organizations who lag behind, they will ultimately lose out. So if you have to remain ahead of that race, you will have to adopt that technology. The sooner you do, the better it is. It's profitable, and again, these are strategic decisions where you do a cost-benefit analysis, and everything, it comes at a cost. True. Technology comes at a cost. Any changes that you do, it will costly, but it may look like very costly on the face of it, but the opportunity costs that you are losing by not upgrading or by not adopting it's a new system you will have to adopt. Right. You can't survive on old technology anymore after another. Maybe whatever we are talking today would probably be obsolete in next 5 years. Right. 10 years back, we could not even think of such things.
True.
So I think it is very important. And the applications of data, data-driven organizations, the applications of those, especially in the service industry, right. I can give examples about the financial industry. The financial industry has adopted it. Sure. There's tremendous scope. Right. Today, tell me if there is a big bank which is doing personal lending. Can they do your credit worthiness? They can't assess my credit worthiness without taking in my data from somewhere.
Correct. Yes.
So where is that data? That data is lying somewhere. That needs to be assimilated, and you need to have right systems to pick up that data.
No, absolutely. Very nicely put across, I must say. 73% of the business leaders have accepted that data silos is one of the biggest challenge, like you pointed out,
Right.
that integration of data at first stage with the second, automatically pulling the data to the second stage. They have sensed that it has hindered their decision-making power at many instances. So there is a huge amount of acceptance which is there in the leaders. With that, as a data leader yourself, right, a data-driven leader, what are the what you call practices or principles you would like to adopt to ensure that there is a successful data management across the teams?
I think for successful data management across the team, one of the things is that it has to be a robust architecture, robust data architecture. Second thing is that your data consistency. There has to be proper data governance. There has to be proper data security.
Right.
I mean, data security is altogether a different topic, but then that is very important, especially with now legislations coming in where you can't expose private data, personal data to somebody.
True.
So all these things have to be there. And while we are discussing this, I'll just give you an example. And this has been a very successful project that I have done, where we just created a dashboard for a CEO.
Okay.
It is a CEO dashboard where, and I would say a bigger organization, about 30 divisions, 30 separate, almost about 30 separate systems.
Okay.
And the dashboard that we created was for the CEO, where data flows from 30 different diverse systems and converges into one particular dashboard. A very thin system, of course.
Right.
And it's been very successful. It is in use right now.
Right.
The CEO went to the extent of doing his divisional review based on that dashboard with drill downs.
Interesting.
Drill down to the level of a particular transaction and a customer.
Wow.
So I cannot divulge further details, but very simple. So when we are talking about, this is the kind of architecture that you have, where you are bringing in diverse data.
True.
So one of the essential things is the parameters. When you are designing data, you have to understand what is the data that I need to capture, what is the data that is required for a decisions.
Right.
Also, what is happening right now is the data that we are capturing. You may have useful data, you have non-useful data.
Correct.
There are actually three components of data: useful data, non-useful data, and noise.
Right.
So now, useful and non-useful is again a debatable thing.
Right.
Today, whatever may be non-useful today, there is a possibility it may become useful after 4 years.
True.
3 years.
Very true.
Right.
Yes.
And again, whatever was useful today, for example, if I'm talking about security systems, I'm talking about and since we're talking about data, I'm talking about simple video surveillance data for, let's say, for a factory.
Right.
And that data is retained for 15 days, 20 days, 1 month.
Right.
After 1 month, it has no significance, because until there's an incident, there's an event.
Correct.
Or maybe it is needed much later, so they would archive it.
Correct.
Otherwise, it's not used.
Right.
Similarly, there could be some data which we're not using today, but we may, in future, that data may be required.
Yes.
I mean, and there are multiple parameters like that. And the other thing is that when you're designing this kind of a setup, there needs to be a proper brainstorming on what are the parameters, what are the metrics that need to be captured.
Right.
And very simple metrics that you can't even think of, they would help you in future. In an education system, you can even go down to the level of, there are countries which sort of digitize students' attendance.
Right.
And sitting today, we think that student attendance has no relevance except for the attendance. No. Yeah. It can devise the overall educational system or the educational strategy of the country.
Absolutely.
That data tomorrow can be used for that.
True.
So whatever data we capture today may be useful after 5 years, 10 years. So that due diligence has to be done. What you need to capture, what you don't need to capture, what is infrastructure data, and also again, capturing of data needs investment. So
Correct.
to what level do you want to invest? That is for the organization to decide.
Organization question. No, I agree. And That matrix which you talked about brings to us our last question, which is, if you want to share the journey of your experience, there are some of the takeaways. Like you said, there are few important matrices which one should consider.
Right.
Can you share a couple of those important matrices which needs to be considered for your peers who are going into this journey of creating a data management system for their business?
I think one of the things that I would tell my peers is that there needs to be a proper roadmap. You need to sit down and create a proper roadmap, and then have leadership buy-in, because without leadership buy-in it will not happen, and you will have to grow. That organization has to get into a data-driven culture, and one would have to assess, because again, if I am the CIO of a company and I say, okay, I'll have to digitize these things, so this is the amount of investment. The first thing that the board will ask me is, okay, how much is to be invested? So that I will have to do a cost-benefit analysis there. I will have to show it. We need to showcase data or data analytics as one of the essential tools for decision making, and one of the essential tools which is going to help us in reaping those benefits. And there are case studies for that.
Right.
Possibly flag a couple of cases and show how it helps.
Okay.
And make the organization buy in for that. And the metrics would, again, there is no set of metrics. I cannot say that there is a standard metrics. It would depend from industry to industry. It would depend on various industries.
True.
For example, and there are case studies, there are examples, a lot of examples, and it is growing. The data capture is growing day by day.
Right.
For example, as we are talking, we are generating data.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, my cell phone that I am using, my Google generates my entire travel.
Absolutely.
So we are generating data on a daily basis. We are generating data as we progress. So that data can be used tomorrow, and that is the organization has to decide. And again, these metrics would change.
Right.
If you are in a financial industry, the metrics would be different. If you are in a healthcare industry, the metrics would be different.
Right.
And the trend is that gradually organizations have started realizing the value, and it is not only the organizations. I think even the administration, even the government has realized that value.
True.
For example, the example I gave earlier was about income tax, or even the Aadhaar based implementation of Aadhaar.
Correct.
Is a government-backed program, and it's a wonderful program where they want to sort of give a individual identifier to a person where his data can be consolidated in one place. So similarly, healthcare, we're also coming. The Ayushman Bharat is coming out with a UIH, Universal Health ID or something. And if that happens, possibly 10 years down the line, I go to a doctor, my entire health record will be with him.
True. True.
So I think on those parameters, it has to go hand in hand with the strategy. The organizations have to frame up their strategy accordingly, and the benefits have to be showcased. Again, from an investment perspective, your board may not want to do it in a single go. It has to be stepwise, but you have to show some benefits to make them invest. And again, it depends on investing in technology, both by way of infrastructure, people. It is not only infrastructure and technology; it's also people.
People, yes.
So all three pillars are there, and it is the need of the day. Otherwise, the business will start lagging behind.
No, absolutely. I would 100% agree to what you are saying. And so thank you so much, Mr. Sunil Vattal, for having this conversation with us. A couple of takeaways which I find very interesting in this conversation was, one, leadership has to be very proactive in terms of making that very strategic decision of how much to invest, where to invest. Number two, people training is also very important, like you lastly mentioned. And last but not the least is breaking that data silos. Data needs to be connected with systems, and those systems has to be transformed from legacy to the new age digital systems. Right. With that, thank you so much, sir, for sharing your thoughts with us. It was really nice talking to you. It was my pleasure to have this conversation. Thank you again so much.
Thank you, Manish. It's a pleasure, and I would compliment TechCircle for conducting such events. and I think you continue with this. I hope you continue with this series. I think it was fun attending this podcast, and the whole concept of TechCircle doing this series of podcasts is really good. I have watched one of the podcasts earlier, and I think it's a very good idea. Gives you an opportunity where you can share your thoughts with others, and others also can learn from this. I mean, it was very nice attending listening to one of the podcasts earlier, and I would really compliment TechCircle for doing a fabulous job. I have been a part of this C-suite community now for almost more than about 9 months, 8-9 months, and I find it very informative, and it allows you to connect with people. People share thoughts. You come out with these one-liners at times. Very good, very impressive, and it is not that you are flooding people with information. Generally what happens is, if I'm a part of any WhatsApp group, I get flooded with information, but that doesn't happen here. It's very one-liners, crisp and to the point, and it's really very good, and I would really expect you guys to continue with these podcasts in future, so that people share their experiences and learn from each other. It's a very good platform to network and to remain abreast of technology and what's happening in the industry.